leadership team have worked on to come up with some very important opportunities that we have in the coming year, and then talk about obviously the expansion and some other projects that we have on the horizon, and again just give you guys a good look into what's ahead in 2023. Obviously, the purpose of a town hall is also to give you an opportunity to ask some questions, so we'll do that a little bit towards the end, and we'll have members of the leadership team here to help answer those questions as well. And then lastly, what I'd like for you to, when you leave today, if you have any suggestions on whether it be topics for a town hall meeting or how you would like to see this, moving forward at the next meeting, we'd love to hear that feedback as well. So you can either email me or you can reach out to Archna, our administrative assistant, and let her know your ideas, okay? Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So really, I just wanted to kind of review the purpose of this meeting. I want you all to leave here today more informed about what's happening on the community. I want you to hear more about some of the challenges that lie ahead for us in 2023 and how we're going to overcome those challenges. And then obviously, as I said, a little bit of feedback from you too is always appreciated, and especially when it comes to ideas. Okay, so this is what we're going to do today. Is we're going to start off by reviewing our operational plan, our business plan for 2023. Now, obviously, it doesn't encompass everything that we're going to be tackling this year, but really it highlights some of the more important priorities that we have coming into the new year. And I cannot believe it's already going to be February. January just flew right by. So we have narrowed it down to really 4 strategic objectives that we're going to focus a lot of time and energy on in 2023. Obviously, over the last couple of years, our financial performance has struggled a little bit because of this expansion project that we've been under, what do I always say, 27 months of construction since breaking ground in October of 2020. So we're going to be really focusing in on trying to really manage to our budgets, identify some opportunities to become more efficient in our operation so we can meet our budget goals, okay? The team has done that, and they've done very well in the past, and we'll go through that in a second. But I think there's still some opportunities there for us to get a little bit better. Number 2, we're going to grow our clinical team and continue to raise the bar in the health services that we provide here on campus. And each of these I'm going to cover in a little bit more detail on the following slides. Number 3, we have a number of things that are on the horizon when it comes to this project. Whether it's independent living, which we are still scheduled to have available to us, this new building in April, and then also the new level of care. There's a lot of things operationally that we need to prepare ourselves for. And we'll go over that in just a few minutes. But a few months ago, the team and I sat down and we listed how many projects that we had in relation to being ready for that. We had over 60 items on our project to-do list. So there's a lot of things the leadership team and I are working on to get ready. And then lastly, I don't know if you've known or aware of, there's a labor force issue. Have you guys heard that before? Yeah, you see it. Okay, well, we don't want you to see it. And so we're laying out some strategies to help to enhance that employee life cycle from every position we recruit for, all the way through to doing things to help to retain those quality employees. So the employee life cycle is another thing that we are focusing in on in 2023. And I want to say this is not new to us, but we still feel like there's some opportunities for us to get better in that area, okay? So let's start with, again, that strategic objective number 1. It's really to become more efficient and make sure we're meeting our budgetary goals. Just to review, there's a lot that's been happening over the last several years, right, that have impacted all of our finances, whether it be the COVID-19 pandemic, inflation, record high inflation, and how that's impacted our gas prices, the supply chain issues, on and on. The last couple of years have been a challenge, and I don't need to tell you that, but I wanted to, again, just make sure I included this slide. And last year, just to review, actually no, this is the 2023 operating budget for review. So we did this at the last town hall meeting, but I wanted to include this summary here for you on what our 2023 operating budget looks like. So we're looking for $17.6 million in revenue, which is a 44% increase from 2022. Why so much of an increase? Can anybody guess? New people joining us. Exactly. We have the independent living building and assisted living building that are going to be coming online. But when you have that much of an increase in terms of people, what else are you going to have an increase in? Our expenses. Expenses, we're going to jump to $19.3 million in expenses in 2023. Has a lot to do with our staff because we are adding 42 FTEs in order to provide services to those new residents. And when I say FTEs, that's full-time employees. So 42 new full-time employees we're going to be bringing online. And then, so overall, when you look at that operating budget, we're projecting an operating loss of $1.6 million. All right? That's compared to an actual loss of $1.5 million in 2022. And I want to highlight this right here. We came in better than budget by $890,000 last year. And again, it's because we are trying to become more efficient. We are trying to manage to our budget and trying to outperform our budget. So again, I give credit to the leadership team for watching their expenses and doing everything they can do to make sure our resources are protected as much as possible. So that's what we're looking at in terms of our budget for 2023. So how are we going to try and outperform that budget like we did in 2022? We are going to be focusing more on planning to our budget, planning our expenses, looking ahead and identifying and forecasting and trying to identify what the challenges may be, all right? Labor is going to be the big challenge for us this year. At what point in time do we add all those new employees? Because we're adding new residents, and that's going to be a slow process over a 15-week period starting in April. At what point in time do we add those new employees to take care of those residents? So it's a strategic plan that the team and I are working on to try and bring those employees on at the right time, but again, protecting our resources and planning to our budget. We're closely tracking everything expense related and trying to be flexible. For example, if Davis has an unexpected expense that comes up and he has whether it's a physical plan issue or whatnot, we're going to try and recover from that in the next month. Right? We need to be flexible in that way. And then lastly, are there some things that we can streamline within our departments? And can we leverage technology also, again, to effectively utilize our resources? So those are some of the things that we're going to try and do to, again, outperform our budget in 2023. But again, knowing we have a lot of things that lie ahead in 2023. So strategic objective number 2 as it relates to kind of taking our health services to the next level, okay, and growing that clinical team. Obviously, number 1 on that list right now is we need to recruit a very skilled, experienced health center administrator and director of nursing. As you all know, Pierce is in the back of the room now, so you can throw the tomatoes at him later. But Pierce is leaving us. His last day is going to be the 10th of February. And I want to say that we did start the recruitment process, and we have a number of good candidates that we're going to be bringing forward and taking through the next steps of that recruitment process. We want to further develop the health and wellness navigator role. So we all know that Carla Stapleton is our health and wellness navigator, and I think she and that role has been a great addition to our community. But I also think we can take it to the next level and expand how she supports our clinical services and you in our community. Next, we're going to introduce the Independent Living Clinic in 2023. We just had a meeting with Dr. Amin and the staff from Randolph Primary Care talking about what that's going to look like when we open up a clinic in that new independent living building. So initially, what we talked about is that he's going to have staff here 3 days a week, and then we're going to grow from there. And so there's going to be opportunities, whether they're your primary care physician or not. You're going to have an opportunity to walk down there to the clinic versus hopping in your car, trying to get a doctor's appointment or go into an urgent care if you have an acute issue that's going on. So it's going to be very convenient service, bringing that healthcare to you here at the campus. So stay tuned for more information on when that's going to happen. But again, that's going to be located inside the new independent living building at the second level. There's an office suite in there that we're going to have the clinic located.
Somebody was going to be April.
What's that?
They told me it was going to still be in April. When they
So that's the goal. When that building opens up, we want to be ready to be able to open up the clinic. And that's why, again, we met today to try and work through some of the hurdles it takes to get that clinic onboarded and started. So.
Mark, so if you already have a primary care person, a doctor, can we use the 1 year if we need to?
Yeah, the question is, if you already have a primary care physician and it's not Randolph Primary Care, can you utilize their services? You absolutely can. Absolutely. Whether it be now, you can reach out through our navigator, Carla, and have that NP come and see you in your residence, or when the clinic opens, you can go down and make a phone call and say, hey, I'm coming in, I need to see you about such and such.
Do I have to give up my primary care?
You don't have to give up your primary care, but by transitioning to Randolph Primary Care, again, it's a very easy transition, and the healthcare services are more readily available to you here on campus because Randolph Primary Care is going to have somebody on campus at least 5 days a week. So you're either going to have Dr. Amin or one of the nurse practitioners here 5 days a week. So very convenient access to healthcare. And then lastly, we are in the process of beginning to utilize a training platform called Relias. It's an online platform that specializes in healthcare education and training. So I really believe that's going to help to improve the services that we provide and improve the skills our clinicians have by having that type of training and education readily accessible. So that's going to be started this year as well. All right, so a lot we're working on in terms of health services in 2023. Now, strategic objective number 3 was operational readiness for our new independent living residents, new assisted living level of care, which is, again, coming on board hopefully April and May. So let's start with assisted living. So really, this traditional middle tier level of care is new to our community, right? So there are a lot of things that we need to get in place, and a lot of those projects included, we needed to have an assisted living policy and procedure manual developed. We needed to do a resident handbook. We needed to get all those things ready to go. And again, we're expecting that building to be completed on April 11th, but because it has to be inspected by the Department of Health Service regulation, we do not expect to occupy until May, because there's a lot of work that needs to go into that inspection with Department of Health Service regulation. So, Therese?
I wanted to ask you a question. I know you're saying the doctor comes in and that they'll care 5 days a week. Our biggest problem, and I realize I just want this addressed if you could, if you think it needs to be, but our biggest problem is the weekend. When we run into problems on the weekend, there seems a lack of being able to get help. So I wonder if that can be addressed as being more efficient.
Yeah, so the question is weekend support when it comes to healthcare needs. And so I guess I would ask the question, when you say lack of availability of help, do you mean when you press the Sarah button, or?
I mean when we have a need for somebody.
Okay.
It's hard to get, like, for example, if somebody that you know has a problem and need to be checked in. Now, I'm aware, and not bad enough to get an EMS in here.
Yeah.
But just to get somebody down in the care center, just to come up and check them out. Okay?
Yeah.
I had, a situation where someone fell, and, it was just almost impossible to get anybody to come up there just to see if we needed further. And I know you say security is supposed to make that call now, a lot of times as to further, but I'm not sure they're really in a position sometimes to handle things like that we don't need to see somebody that has some nursing background or some type of medical background.
Yeah. Well, so let me address it this way. You know, once we bring the assisted living online, we are going to be adding some additional nursing staff. Now, it is our plan that that additional nursing staff will help to support the SARA alert system across campus, because we realize that there have been holes in that system when it came to the clinical support team responding to SARA alerts. So that's how we plan to address that, because our goal is ultimately we want a nurse to be available whenever that SARA alert is pressed. And, you know, part of the reason why it has not happened was there were several months where we didn't even have nurse supervisors for some of the shifts down in the Care and Wellness Center because we were still recruiting for those positions. And those are the ones that typically respond to those SARA alerts. So that's how we intend to address that gap in service, whether it be off hours or weekends.
I also wonder if Pia's going to get an assistant or somebody to help her, because I see her and I don't know how she isn't going to get burned out quick. Amen.
Yeah, we have some further plans also for the home care and how we're going to manage that department as well. So stay tuned for more information on that. We're still working through the details.
Thank you.
But I can't stress enough how important that navigator role is in communicating whenever you do have something that's going on, something new, you just don't feel well. Communication and coordination through that navigator, which is Carla Stapleton, is going to be the best way for you to get access to healthcare. All right, and so we intend to grow that healthcare navigator role and program throughout campus.
Is Carla gonna be here 7 days a week?
No.
Well, that's, I mean, it's back to the question of the weekend, and I've heard a lot of people ask that question about.
Yeah, and again, once we bring that assisted living on board, that's our intention is, you know, for SARA alert response, that's how we're going to manage that.
So to have somebody in addition to Carla on the
Yeah, on off hours. But again, we're growing that health and wellness navigator role and program, and it's going to be more than just one person.
Good.
Mm-hmm. So that's going to be happening this year.
Somebody.
Okay. Once the new building is available to us, it'll have 36 apartments. So we're going to move first. The first to move is going to be the Wisteria residents in Care and Wellness Center. They'll move over first, and then we'll slowly transition our independent living residents that are appropriate and that are interested in making that move to assisted living. So, you know, because it's a new service line, you know, we're doing some education. Hopefully you've been able to attend one of those educational sessions. We have another one coming up later on this week, right, Pierce? Is it this week or next?
Next week.
Next week. That's going to be happening next week as well. Just a reminder, assisted living is only going to be available to Whitestone residents. So we are not going to be admitting anybody from outside of our community into that assisted living because it is meant for only Whitestone residents. To continue with assisted living, again, we're going to continue with the education. What is assisted living? So we make sure we share that information with our staff and with you. We have already started to work through a waiting list of independent living residents that could be potentially appropriate to move into that assisted living level of care. And then we're going to start reaching out to residents and family members and start talking through that process and building our official wait list so we know who's going to be moving over to the assisted living. So that's also a work in progress. Right now, I will tell you that we have more than 40 people on our list that the clinical team has come together and said, you know, we should probably look at these individuals as being appropriate to transform. We feel that would thrive in the assisted living environment versus where they are in independent living. So we're gonna go through that list again, start reaching out to people in the next several weeks and have those conversations. And our health and wellness navigator will help with the transition. Once we have our list, she'll help with that transition from independent living over to the assisted living. With our independent living, we expect that building to be available to us and able to occupy as of April 11. So Marie and the team are already working with our buyers in that building to develop a schedule of moving in. Again, this is going to be a slow move-in process. We're not going to be admitting everybody all at one time because that would not only be overwhelming to all of you, it would be overwhelming to our staff. So we're going to develop that move-in process over a 15-week period, and then, you know, again, hopefully make the adjustments that we need to operationally over time over those next 15 weeks. Something additionally in independent living I wanted to bring up is just really a renewed focus on engagement. If you were in resident council, you heard me talk about our activity programming and volunteer programming, in which we are more closely tracking who comes to our activities, and that's because we want to know if there's something that we can provide to get somebody else to come activities, to build that program, so we're not only impacting a smaller group with our activity programming. We want to expand. We want more people engaged, so that's the idea there. Same thing with the volunteer program. The reason why we are tracking is because I know we have a number of volunteers here and a great volunteer program, but I couldn't tell you how many people are volunteering and how many hours they're putting in every week or every month. That's something that I think we should highlight, because to me that means we're doing something right here as a community when you have that level of resident engagement. So that is why we're starting to track that. And also, you know, again, it helps us to identify who's volunteering and what they're doing to see if we can expand those volunteer opportunities, because we know it's important to you, a number of the volunteers. It gives great purpose to their day. And we want other people to enjoy that through the volunteer program. So that's why, again, a renewed focus on resident engagement this year. We're also looking to expand through, you know, different programming, activity programming ideas and destination spaces. So I don't know how many people have come to me lately and said, how about a pickleball court? Or how about bocce ball? Or how about a little miniature golf putting green somewhere on campus? So we are looking to develop some of those spaces this year. So we don't have anything defined yet or determined yet, but it's something we have great interest in, and we think that the Gay Terrace project, which I'll talk to in a few minutes, could provide us an opportunity to bring at least one of those destination spaces. The other thing that an idea one of our leadership team members had was, wouldn't it be neat in that little space in between the chapel and Linville building if we had a fire pit? Wouldn't that be neat? So we're talking about it, and we'll engage you all and see what you want to see. But it's something that we are very interested in continuing in 2023. Yes, sir.
I was just going to say that there are, as we all know, there are many people in independent living who do not participate in activities around here. And I think one of the things that should be developed is a focus on these folks to find out why they don't participate. Maybe they're just very reclusive people and don't want to participate.
Yeah.
But I think part of the focus needs to be on them, to let them know that they are appreciated and that they are a part of our community, and we'd like to see them involved.
Great point. And I'll tell you that Gina and her team are already working on that. So another reason why they are taking attendance and activities, to identify those people that are not engaged. So they can either perform a one-on-one meeting and have those conversations, or just one-on-one just to make sure they're getting some socialization throughout the day. Because we know those are typically ones that are at higher risk of events occurring. So we want to pay closer attention to those. So that's another reason why we're taking attendance. But also, I know I've talked to Joanne and a few others. I think I mentioned in some of our committee meetings that the great work that auxiliary committee does in our Care and Wellness Center with their visitation program, why can't we develop that in independent living? I'm sure that we have a number of residents in independent living that would enjoy a visit by a fellow resident. And so we're going to be looking to expand that visitation not only from the Care and Wellness Center to our independent living setting as well. So great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Strategic priority number 4 is our people, is our staff. It's what makes Whitestone what it is today. And so we are developing, as I mentioned, recruiting and retention strategies to support the growth of 42 full-time positions, from all the way from really redefining and focusing on from the general orientation all the way through their employee life cycle to retention efforts. Making sure that our employees are satisfied and are receiving the recognition. This was fantastic last week when we had all of those employees coming through, giving them their awards, talking about anniversaries. You guys were all applauding, which was fantastic. I loved it, especially Miss Betty, because if you didn't notice Miss Betty last week, she was tearful. She was just so happy and tearful for that recognition that she was getting. That made my day. So I was glad to see her posted on our Facebook page too, getting the recognition. So that's the thing we're going to be focusing on, in addition to making sure we stay competitive with our compensation. So I'll admit to you, in the past, it's typically like every year we'll look and see, okay, let's do a salary survey and look at the leading age salary survey just right before budget season, right, and see where we need to be. We need to do that more frequently because salaries are changing like that. So in our market, and we need to stay competitive, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to be monitoring those salaries, especially those key positions, just to make sure we're remaining competitive and our staff are receiving the wage they deserve. So that's how we're going to work on that as well, and continue to do these recognitions that we do. I don't know, have you guys all follow us on Facebook? Anybody? So you guys see we have a testimonial Tuesday where we highlight one of our employees every Tuesday. And then we've also been highlighting our teams, and I think there's a recognition day for everything and everybody anymore, right? So we're trying to recognize folks again on social media and celebrate those days with those folks like we did here for National Marketing Day. So those are just some of the things we're doing. Nikki, in the back of the room, Nikki has been already scheduling food trucks for our employees because our employees love food, not just donuts, George. So Nikki's been...
We're going to get that in the budget. So.
Okay. Nikki's been identifying and scheduling food trucks to come in to, again, just have it available and just say thank you for the team for the work that they do. But the most important thing that I feel like that we can do to support that staff and recognize them is for me to ask you to continue to recognize our staff for doing a good job. That's what's most meaningful to them. So thank you for doing that. Obviously, we have some really priority positions that we're recruiting for right now, starting with our Health Services Administrator, Director of Clinical Services, Director of Plant Operations. If you did not get the memo, Davis is not leaving. He has, we've decided just with our growth, we have an opportunity to become more efficient and provide additional resource and leadership to our plant operations team. So we've essentially split the position in two. We're gonna have a director of plant operations, director of environmental services, and Davis will be stepping into that director of environmental services role, and we're actively recruiting for a director of plant operations. And then also, John is still searching for the right executive chef to bring to our community. He's had a number of interviews already, just not good fits yet. So we're gonna wait and make sure we find the right fit. Okay, and then I can't help but we can't forget about the Care and Wellness Center renovation as well. So we're now moving on to beyond the top 4 strategic priorities or objectives. These are some other objectives that we have and that we're currently working on. Okay, I know, Nikki, it's hot in here. So the Care and Wellness Center renovation, we're currently on phase 3 of our 4-phase plan to get through that building. Obviously it's been a challenge, but I think we're getting close to the finish line. That phase 3 consists of our 300 hallway and all the resident rooms are out on that hallway. We're updating our furniture, our finishes, all of our decor in that hallway, and it's going to be consistent to what you have already seen as far as our renovation in that building. We estimate to be able to occupy that space on or around April 1 this year. And so that will give us phase 4 that would be remaining. And we are not going to start renovating phase 4 until the new assisted living building is ready, because we only want to be able to move those Wisteria, those memory care residents, one time into their new home in the assisted living versus an interim move and then another move, because change is difficult. So we're going to wait. And because of that wait, we will probably not be done with the renovation of the Care and Wellness Center until August of this year. All right, so there's going to be a little bit of a delay.
How many beds are in Care and Wellness? I never have known that.
So we are licensed for 88 nursing home beds and 12 what they call adult care home beds in North Carolina. Adult care home equals assisted living. So before the renovation, we were a 100-bed facility in the Care and Wellness Center. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Another project. I know this is near and dear to everyone's heart. The upgrading of our Wi-Fi, our network. So the team at Single Digits has been on campus the last several weeks, starting to update the infrastructure, which includes the access points, like what you see up here in the ceiling over here. One of those access points is now in every one of your apartments in the independent living building. Previously, you had those scattered throughout the corridor, but now they're going to be in every one of your apartments, so it's going to help improve the connectivity and speed. All right? So they've been here over the last several weeks. So with this project, we're increasing bandwidth to, again, increase base speeds, increase connectivity. I already mentioned the infrastructure updates, not only just access points, all of their equipment around campus is going to be updated. Okay, so to the latest technology. They're also, this is where we know they need to spend a lot of attention, customer service. I can't tell you how many times I've talked with one of you about sending in a work ticket to Single Digits, they're not responding or they don't respond for a couple days later. Each and every time I hear that, I communicate with our account representative, and I know that they are working on developing a better process in-house to answer our customer service needs, but it's not there yet. So we're going to keep our eye on that just to make sure they do respond to our needs appropriately. George?
Do we have a backup plan in case they don't work out and we need to find another company?
So George's question is, do we have a backup plan if it doesn't work out? Nikki and I do. There would be some work that we would have to do to make that happen, but we've already looked into Spectrum, just bringing Spectrum onto campus and providing that Wi-Fi service to all of our residents. So we've talked about it.
Okay.
So we're estimating completion in February with this update. Now I know the one thing that they're waiting on is, to increase their bandwidth, we have a new fiber cable that's being installed onto campus, and that's from a different vendor. So I know they've been delayed a couple different times to bring that new fiber onto campus, and that's the biggest thing that they're waiting on as far as this upgrade. Okay, so I'll try and provide you guys an update as soon as I hear that and new information is available.
Do you know when they'll be in the villas?
I do not know, Nikki does. Nikki knows.
Yeah, so, can everybody hear me? I'm like the loud mouth, see, I need that. So, I actually had a call or a talk today with Single Digits while they're on site. They're actually gonna be testing some equipment in a vacant villa, Wednesday. So they're gonna be putting in new equipment and testing it to see what the speed's like and working on some of that. So I don't have a definite date, but they are gonna start testing the equipment out there. And, Mark mentioned, them trying to get equipment. It was interesting in my conversation with him today. He said that he actually had to fly our equipment in. He couldn't ship it like regular shipping. He had to have it all flown in order to get it here because they're having so much trouble getting equipment. But they are going to start testing equipment and stuff in a vacant villa this week to see how to proceed with all that. So we'll definitely keep you guys up to speed when work's going to be happening out there.
Thank you, Nikki. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would change the subject. What's the plan for feeding all of us when we?
So let me get through the slides and we'll talk about that. So we thought that's going to be a good way for us to save money. We're just not going to feed you.
You got to pay for it somewhere.
Okay. Speaking of feeding, another project that we have on the horizon is an updating of our buffet. All right, so we've been working with our contractor and engineers and so on, and we're going to redesign that buffet. We're going to buy some new equipment, so better food holding, so hotter food, colder food, so on and so forth. And then we're going to update the entire finishes in that little buffet room as well. So we're going to be working on that project this spring and summer. There have been some delays in getting the designers and the engineers all on the same page, but I think we have a final design of the space and specs for the space to be able to go to pricing with our contractor. But the one thing that I just recently heard was some of the equipment is there are delays on some of that equipment, like 30 weeks. So we're gonna do our best to identify the equipment that we can get our hands on and get that project moving forward too. So that's coming in the near future as well. And then the bistro.
Bart, what is delayed getting that project done in the bistro? What it supposed to look like when he gets all done?
So, the bistro. Well, we are going to be ready, hopefully, by next week. There were some issues in getting some of the materials, and let me just say that we thought we had planned ahead and ordered the right tile, okay, because we removed all the cabinetry, and underneath the cabinetry we identified there was some missing tile, okay, so we had to order some tile, and we thought we ordered the right tile, but it came in a different color. So we had to go back. It was the correct order tile. They just sent us what they had, and the color that we had ordered, they had stopped production on, and there was just none to be found. So we had to go with another tile, and that delayed us about a week or so, but next week we should be able to be in that space. Today they're installing cabinets. I'd be happy to kind of pull the curtain back and show you what the space looks like. It's going to be almost the same design, but a little bit different. But when it opens up, we're going to have a new menu. It's going to be new hours. John, what are going to be the hours again?
So it's going to be 7 to 3 Monday through Saturday and 8 to 4 on Sunday.
7 to 3 Monday through Saturday, 8 to 4 on Sunday.
Yeah.
How does that sound? Good. So,
Continental breakfast hours will be the first 2 hours, or what?
John, continental breakfast hours.
So that's still gonna be 7 to 9. And that'll be open for coffee all the way through open time to closing time. So there will not
Coffee
be-
available throughout the entire day, continental breakfast from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Okay? So, Mike, did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Well, can we go in there, say at 2:00 if we wanna get a sandwich?
Yeah,
And, okay.
7 to 3, Monday through Saturday, 8 to 4 on Sunday. Okay? So, you may have heard us talking about the Gay Terrace project a lot, right? Some of you may not know what we're talking about, so hopefully I'm going to give you some new information, all right?
It's a happy terrace.
It's a happy terrace, that's another way to put it. So this is a property located at 601 Gay Terrace, which is, if you go out the main entrance, go right, and then you go right on Spring Garden, that first side street is Gay Terrace, all right? There's a property back there that we purchased in 2009. It was the last piece of property that we purchased because we own everything else along Gay Terrace, Spring Garden to Holden, and all of that for future expansion and growth, okay? Well, actually, why don't I show you? Okay, I know this is a little bit blurry, okay, so bear with me. But here you see our campus, right? Here's Holden. This is Spring Garden. Okay, and then Gay Terrace comes down right here.
Beside the dog park.
It's right behind my house.
It's right behind Tabby's house, right behind, I saw Don Etherington's house. So like there's Don's house right there. Okay, here's the Care and Wellness Center, here's the parking lot of the Care and Wellness Center. All right, you get some perspective on where you're at? So what we're gonna do, this is the building and this is the property we're talking about. The land we've already cleared the land. And so what we're going to do is create a cartway that comes on campus over to that property. It's going to be secured by a fence, the cartway and also all of this property. And it is going to house our plant operations department, a resident woodworking shop, our resident gardens, and then as it's put here, maybe a destination space, maybe a pickleball court or something like that. But that's the Gay Terrace project. We're working to get access to a metal building that was there when we bought the property in 2019. The building has they've already started upfitting that building. Plant operations has moved into it quite a bit. But the woodworking shop still needs some work in terms of setup. Davis is still working to get some of the other equipment. Davis, can you give us an update? Fire safety equipment is in?
Fire safety equipment is in. The electrical inspection was called for a week and a half ago. We're waiting on the city to give us an answer on that. And then the fire department has to come out and bless the fire panel and all the horns and screws.
Sarah system?
Sarah's system is not operational yet. Is that correct? There's an issue between the two buildings where there's connectivity between the IL building and that building over there so that everything will talk and work together. We're just waiting on that one piece and then everything will be operational.
Okay, so we still have work to do to get Sarah system connectivity and still have work to do to get the fire alarm system approved by the city. Lastly, I know that we have some woodworkers in here that we want to get over there to go through the space, go through the equipment, set it up appropriately. So hopefully that'll get done in the next couple of weeks so it's ready for you to use. I just signed a document and part of an application for the city for that project to get started to create that cartway. Just signed it today and sent it back to our civil engineer. So hopefully we're going to get moving on that project as well. Okay.
Is the auto place on that property, or are you gonna get rid of that?
The auto place. Is the auto place on the property? Crazy Tires is up here somewhere. And I know we've had issues with mosquitoes and just the property being unsightly. We do own that piece of property. We have reached out to our property managers on a couple of occasions, and we'll continue to work through those challenges with them. We have a property manager that manages that business, the church, and then also over here there's a house that's a rental on our property that we have as well.
It seems that I guess tires or auto place is a blight on the rest of the property.
Yeah, Crazy Tires is the name of it. Yeah, I agree and understand, and we're going to work with that property manager to solve some of those problems. Okay, I wanted to make a quick announcement too about, as you may or may not know, our Director of Operations Management, Mark Collada, whom, if you've been with this community, you know him as the previous Executive Director. He was here for 12 years prior to me, and in 2018 when I came, he stepped into a Director of Operations Management role with Life Care Services, which he oversees 6 other communities like Whitestone. Mark is going to be retiring, and they have found his replacement, and his name is Jacob Elliott. He will be here on the 10th of February for our Cornerstone event, and then also the 11th for our board meeting. So you'll get an opportunity to meet Jacob during that time.
Has he graduated high school?
As far as I know, I didn't do the reference check.
Okay, all right.
Everybody's younger than you.
Okay.
Okay, just a reminder again, any suggestions for the next town hall? We want to hear from you. Just let us know if there's any information we didn't provide today. Just send me an email. Send it to or reach out to Patel at the front desk. Let her know. We want to hear your suggestions. Mike?
Are they going to move the security gate to another location or keep it like it is?
So the question is, are we moving the security gate? I'm assuming you mean at the main entrance?
Yeah.
No, that's going to remain where it's at. So you'll still have to come through that security gate to either go left, as we've all been doing for years, or to go right down the Hiram Lane. Again, that new roadway around the north part of the property is going to be called Hiram Lane when it does open up. Tweety?
When the new residents move in, how are we going to have meetings like this?
Well, that's a good question. When the new residents move in, how are we going to have group gatherings like this? More than likely, what we'll have to do is we'll have to set up a couple different opportunities for people to come to a meeting. Until, many of you don't know this, but we do have a next phase of an expansion plan as a part of our master plan, and that next phase will be an auditorium. But that's not probably 8 years down the road. So until then, we'll have to utilize, some creativity in terms of identifying a couple of different opportunities to hold these types of meetings. But we'll just have to do the best that we can.
Zoom.
That's a good opportunity to use updated technology.
Yeah.
To include everybody at once. It's hard when you separate the crowd because you get different answers in different places.
Sure.
So, but I did have a question.
And we are streaming today, thanks to Bob.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Bob.
So we are getting that out there on Touchdown.
So, the question I had going back to the healthcare, is I don't really understand the relationship between Whitestone and the Randolph primary care. And I'll give you one example. When you get referred by the nurse practitioner to someone outside the community, to a provider outside of the community, then it seems that they come to Whitestone people to set up those appointments. And invariably, some things happen and that communication doesn't go as smoothly as any of us would like. So I don't understand why it comes back to Whitestone to set up those appointments, and whether that's always gonna be the case or what's going on there.
Great question, and the question relates to Randolph Primary Care and kind of further trying to identify the relationship that we have and how our services are going to be provided. So this was actually one of the topics of conversation today when we met with Randolph Primary Care, because we realized there have been some miscommunication, so we're still trying to work through some of those issues and still trying to define what that process looks like. You know, for example, when we identify somebody that needs to go out and have a specialty service, x-ray, or go see a specialty physician, and they're trying to work that through our transportation department, and that's not really working very well that way. So we're working on it, you know, and hopefully that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a further defined process that we can share with you all and what that communication is going to look like. But I say that's one of the benefits of transitioning to Randolph Primary Care, though, is that we're eliminating one of the hurdles that we've run into, is communicating with your other primary care physician to get some of your services for you here on campus. By directly working with Randolph Primary Care, we're eliminating that. So again, another benefit to making that transition is that, again, it's making it a more seamless process to get your health care through Randolph and here on campus. But we're working through some of those
I'm
hurdles.
just comforted that you know about it and you're working on it.
Yes, ma'am. So what other questions? So let's get back to the question about dining. So I know this has been a topic of conversation in our Food and Beverage Committee meeting. I know John and his team have been working with some different solutions. John, did you want to come up and speak to this, or you want to?
I'll speak from right here. So we've actually identified a couple ways to increase the number of seats that we have in the dining room. So the way it's laid out right now, we can actually seat 114 people. That's including all 4 dining sections. And we haven't really been using every section on a nightly basis. So right after our board dinner, we're actually going to be utilizing private dining every single night. So that's going to increase the number of seats that we can use in the dining room on a nightly basis. So, and aside from that, we can also put a couple of additional tables in the fine dining section. So just every night we'll actually have some additional seats to be able to utilize.
So I think the answer is that we're going to be utilizing the full capacity available to us in the dining areas on both sides. Obviously, you know, we're going to need to staff up to that and making sure we have enough servers, but also really utilizing the reservation process too. And that's something we're looking further into, because there may be some technology through Touchtown that might make that reservation practice a little bit easier and more convenient for everybody. So we're looking into those options to, again, leverage technology to make things a little bit easier. But even John has looked at, trying to identify some early bird specials to get folks to maybe come in a little bit earlier time and be creative that way. So the late bird special, there you go. So the thing that I would like to remind everybody too is we are moving folks in at a slower pace just for this reason, right? Because we want to be ready and we want to be able to provide you a valuable service when it comes to dining, because we know how important that is. And there may be some trial and error at the beginning. And we're going to work through those errors as we go. But it's going to be easier for all of us if we're moving people in slower. So that's why we've designed it that way. Because trust me, our board wanted us to see everybody come in quicker, right? Because what does that mean? We're getting a little bit more revenue every month. But we were fortunate enough to be able to design a move-in process that's going to allow us to spend more time and be more thoughtful about how operations is going to be impacted. Donna?
The space right outside of the fellowship hall between here and the dining room, is there any future opportunity to expand the dining room into that space?
So you talk about the courtyard space? Mm-hmm. So Donna was asking if there's any opportunity to expand the dining into, this courtyard area that we currently have. We have not investigated that option yet, but not saying that we can't.
Well, I didn't know, what the city, what they would think about that. I don't know whether it would be regulatory accepted or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure, and I think that's an opportunity for us to look at. But I will add, and I know you all chuckled when I said this the last time, the next part of our expansion phase is adding more dining space when we add that auditorium and another independent living building. So that's the next phase of growth for the campus.
And also, you could actually take in the terrace.
Yeah.
And, but walk around it.
We have actually discussed the possibility of enclosing the outdoor dining space, because I don't know that for some reason it is not utilized very much at all.
Well,
I was trying to be nice. So we may end up doing just that. But I also want to remind everybody that when this new independent living building comes online, we've designed a shortcut from that new building, but it's going to come in through that outdoor dining space and enter into this rotunda. So people don't have to walk all the way around to come to dining. But we can design another walk around or something like that if we do decide to close that space in. So, but that's a good idea.
Statistically, of the meals served, how many are served in the dining room as opposed to delivered to the residents? And
that's a great question.
Will that carry over to the expansion?
John, do you have any idea what percentage of our residents are still getting delivery?
It's right around 20%, somewhere in there.
About 20%, which is still high in my opinion.
Yeah, it looks
So,
like a lot when it's going in.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's going to carry over. I don't think it will, because I'll be honest with you, our current independent living population is a little bit more frail than most independent living communities. And that's not going to be the case with our independent living residents that are coming into the new building. So as I pointed out earlier, our existing population is going to change once assisted living opens up. We transition those folks to assisted living that'll really thrive in that environment. So again, I think our population is going to be less frail, and I think you're going to see less deliveries that go along with that. Bob?
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about the rotunda and the noise abatement that?
Okay, great. I appreciate that. So the rotunda, the acoustics in the rotunda have been an issue for ever since I've been here. When you get a large group of people in there, you can't hear yourself talk. So Davis had an acoustics engineer come out. We are awaiting on their recommendations, which is going to include likely some acoustic panels in the ceiling. We may end up changing flooring. We may end up doing also some draperies, some sound dampening draperies as well in that space to address that acoustics problem. But we're waiting on their recommendation. Just know that they've been in, they've taken measurements on multiple occasions, and they're trying to develop a resolution for us.
And when do you expect to hear from them?
Davis, when do we expect to hear back?
We're hoping this week.
Davis will reach out to them tomorrow and make sure we get a response. Maggie?
With the crunch in the dining space that we have now, why are you closing the bistro at the dinner hour?
John, you want to address that question?
So typically, we just haven't really had a lot of participation for the bistro for dinner. We have averaged usually right around between 6, 7, 8, maybe 9 orders altogether at night. So since we are going to be not open on a nightly basis for dinner in the bistro, we're going to offer those menu items out of the main dining room. And then that could also be a chance for us to capitalize on special events in the bistro. If there's a sports game or something along those lines, we can have a special menu and have the bistro open on a Friday night with just a special kind of a baked potato bar, chili bar, chicken wings, or something like that. Just a very simple menu that a lot of people might really enjoy. So even though it's not gonna be open every night, it can still be a chance for us to have some additional seats with a special menu or a special event when we do need it.
And that's a great question, Maggie, because it's something that we talked about as being a potential part of the solution. But the utilization is just, as John mentioned, on average, maybe 6 meals a night are going out.
Don't you
So-
think that will pick up now that the pandemic is basically hopefully behind us?
No, I don't, because we have a larger dinner crowd, and I think our resources are better utilized in the dining room versus the bistro. And then also, I think we're getting a greater impact, by having the bistro open up from 7 to 3 versus, in the morning for a little bit, lunch a little bit, closing down, so on and so forth. So I think there's going to be better utilization of that space with those hours. But again, this is all something that we're trialing, and we're hoping it's gonna improve your satisfaction, and we'll measure that. And if it's not, we'll make adjustments. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry I'm new, but for all the new people, are we adding parking spaces as well?
Great question about parking.
No.
So,
Okay.
as we start to finish out this project, Hiram Lane will open up. And when Hiram Lane opens up, we're opening up an additional 100 parking spaces. And that's in addition to the 31 underground spaces that are underneath that building. So right now today, the large majority of our staff, well, all of our staff, are parking on this side of both the Care and Wellness Center and Independent Living Building. Once Hiram Lane opens up, they will all park on the back side. So you're going to open up all of that independent living parking, opening up all of Care and Wellness Center parking when Hiram Lane does open up.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Beverly?
I was wondering about the expense, who's paying for the lights that are on at night when they're doing the new construction in the new building? Because it's lit up. I mean, it's like daytime out there.
Whitestone is paying that expense. Absolutely.
I hope we encourage them to turn the lights off when they leave.
Is it on every floor or?
Oh, it's on the 5th floor now.
Fifth
I'm
floor,
sure it will
okay.
go down with each.
Every room.
Every room. Every light in every room on the 5th floor.
Yeah, they're probably not working that late, but I know they're putting in 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. They're really ramping up out there. So, but I'll see what I can do.
I get up in the
I
morning
appreciate
and I
that.
can still see lights on, so I'm thinking,
Okay.
I know.
What about the big thing you see on windows advertising on the building? Will that stay? Because it's great.
The big thing we see on Wendover.
It's a big logo.
Big thing.
Oh, okay. If you've not seen it, our contractors, FL Bloom, have basically a projector on the side of the new independent living building that has our logo, their logo, and our architect's logo. It's just projected on the side of that independent living building. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were like Craig or somebody that has one of those end apartments, I probably would not like that. Yeah, I probably would not like that being projected into my apartment.
No, thank you. I thought it was handed over.
No, but as a part of our, as a part of this project, well, not a part of this project, but we have designs on the assisted living building is going to have a nice Whitestone sign on it that's going to be nicely backlit. That's going to really kind of promote our community.
That's good.
Dorsey.
Yeah, this is a what-if question, but I'm sure you're going to run into it with the new assisted living building open. If we have a resident who is single, let's say simply, that qualifies to move into the building, the assisted living building, they're living in a $200,000 apartment that they bought for, secured 3 or 4 years ago. What's going to become of their investment? How's that going to be handled?
So, are you saying that? Are you talking about? Okay, so you have a spouse that moves to
let's say you just have a single person.
Oh, a single person.
Just live in an apartment. They paid a $200,000 entrance fee.
Yeah.
But now they're going into assisted living.
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen, or what's the transition of that investment?
That equity would continue to amortize until it is fully amortized.
Say that again.
So, if it's a traditional contract, it amortizes over 50 months, right?
Well, that's gone by the board. That's, let's say they've been there 5 years.
Okay.
So that portion of the contract.
So then there's nothing left of the entrance fee.
No.
The equity is gone.
I don't like that.
That's the way our traditional contracts work, though, right? If you still have some equity left, you would absolutely get that back if and when you decide to leave the community. But if you don't leave the community, if there's, let's just say there's still some equity left, and they move to transition to assisted living, you don't get that back. You only would get a return on that equity if you leave the community.
Well, what you're saying is there no entrance fee?
No.
To get into the.
No, if you're already a resident of Whitestone, which you have to be to move into assisted living, if you've already paid your entrance fee, there is no second entrance fee.
Yeah.
But you still have your monthly fee, whatever that might be.
So your monthly fee essentially would increase because you have the additional staffing and resources available to you in that level of care, but there would be no additional entrance fee. Anita?
I didn't even think of this until he mentioned it. Say we both got dead before the end of the time.
Yeah.
Where does that money go? Can it go to my estate?
Correct.
Oh, I never even thought of it.
Bet your husband has.
Because I'm going to forever.
And if you don't have an estate, my kids still need to go to school.
But after so many years, that runs out.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you don't take it with you when you go.
Yep.
No.
Well, I thank you again for being here. Hopefully this was helpful and informative. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas, so please shoot me an email or pull me aside next time you see me. But if there are no other questions, this concludes our first town hall in 2023, so thank you.